Coming up tonight, big honors for Long Islander Joseph B. Carroll. Queens Highway is no more. Plus, guess who's giving the commencement speech at UB's Northern Campus graduation? The answer is on the way. Stay close. And as Russia continues to bombard Ukraine, Our News Weekend has an exclusive interview with some of the people who provide Ukraine with aid. That's straight ahead as Our News Weekend starts now. This is Our News Weekend edition. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Megan Shepard. A portion of the Queens Highway in Long Island was renamed after businessman and community builder Joseph B. Carroll. The monumental day brought his loved ones and top-ranking government officials to honor his memory. Bethany McDermott was there.
My family appreciates the honor now being bestowed on our father, and thank all of you, especially Mr. Ian Knowles and the respective members of the local government for their joint efforts.
It was an historic moment in Long Island. A portion of the road formerly known as the Queens Highway was renamed the Joseph B. Carroll Highway. The road stretches from an area called Pinders to Scrub Hill. Acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper was on hand to cut the ribbon and called it the latest of many exciting steps for the island.
By renaming this road in central Long Island, we do more than honor his memory. We make the much bolder decision to recognize our own, to commemorate the builders of this nation who were born in this nation, who helped to build this nation with their own hands.
The ceremony was held at NGM Major, the school Carroll too attended. The renaming has been in the pipeline for 18 years. Works and Utilities Minister Alfred Sayre says the event shows the definition of what it is to live a successful life.
Where in all things Joseph Benjamin Carroll found it more blessed to give than to receive, more honorable to build than destroy. It is therefore fitting that this portion of the road from Scrub Hill to Pinders be named in honor of this Bahamian patriot.
Area Member of Parliament Adrian Gibson joined in paying tribute to the life of Carroll.
The late J.B. Carroll was a community builder. Everyone knows or heard of J.B. Carroll. Everyone. Mr. Carroll was a businessman, a known business owner, and a former soldier who represented us well. He stood tall here in Long Island. He's one of our local heroes. He was a leading figure here in the Deadman Ski area and was known from end to end.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
At a plaque unveiling for the country's oldest veteran who lived to be 100 years old, the British Legion Bahamas branch calling for more corporate sponsors to help members in their efforts to care for our aging World War II veterans and their widows. Chairman of the British Legion Bahamas branch, Adina Monroe-Charlo, explains.
We have two remaining World War II veterans, the comrade Vernon Pinder at 98, and then comrade Henry Kilman in Freeport at 96. We have 18 widows that we care for, and they need our support. The older they get, they need the support of the British Legion. I also take this opportunity to send out a public donation appeal, because we are now low on monies to support our World War II veterans and widows, and we're asking Corporate Bahamas to assist us as soon as possible.
While most people only think of veterans around Remembrance Day in November, the British Legion Bahamas branch's work to care for our servicemen and their widows continues around the clock. Monroe-Charlo tells us the kind of work it takes and where donations go.
Our donations cover definitely since the pandemic. We have been providing grocery packages on a monthly basis to our elderly World War II veterans and widows in Nassau. And we have also increased, by the grace of God, we were able to increase their monthly pensions this month. which is badly needed by those who are living in the Family Islands. My telephone number is 422-1047. 422-1047.
Now, there are only 2 surviving Bahamian World War II veterans left in the Bahamas. And on Wednesday, the British Legion Bahamas branch unveiled a plaque for a veteran who recently passed, but lived to be the oldest surviving Bahamian veteran so far at 100 years old. Our Marlena Leonard reports.
The late comrade Jeremiah Nemore served as an aircraft engineer in the Royal Air Force during World War II and lived to see 100, passing away just days after his 100th birthday in January of this year. The British Legion and Nemore's family members gathered together for the unveiling of a plaque in his honor. Chairperson of the British Legion Bahamas branch, Adina Munro-Charlo, speaks to the importance of these kinds of memorials.
It is history in the making. On the road to 50, we are celebrating a person who lived 100 years and who served his country some 78 years ago. And it was fitting for his son, Derek, and the family to have a plaque in his honor here in Nassau.
Comrade Nemore's son, Derek Nemore Sr., says the family would have had no idea about the impact his father had made had it not been for the British Legion Bahamas branch.
It means a lot to us, because my father was very secretive, and because of this beautiful lady, I get to know a lot about my father. One day I walk inside the hallway she was, and I introduced myself to her, and she told me the history of my father. It's very touching.
But he says he's disappointed in the lack of interest in the country's aging veterans who served before our independence.
My father served this country all his life. I said not one politician was to his funeral, and I was very heartbroken on that. Without this lady's support, the veterans will be forgotten. Okay? Her and her husband take money of their own pocket to make sure that the veterans be taken care of every month.
Nemore says a big step would be for increased efforts to educate our youth about our hidden heroes.
But we need to go into school and educate them, okay? The students, they don't know nothing about the veterans.
And fortunately, the branch's chairperson assures us that kind of initiative is coming in the near future.
These men were before 1973. You understand? They served between 1939 to 1945. Without them, there would be no independence. Without them, there would be no Bahamas.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Thanks, Marlena. Well, for the remainder of May and throughout early June, officials from the Department of Meteorology will be visiting all weather stations throughout the country. Director Jeffrey Simmons says they will be doing maintenance, repair, calibrations of radars, and automatic weather stations so that everything is well prepared in the case of impact. He says that one of the greatest problems the Bahamas faces during a hurricane is storm surge.
We have been working over the years in terms of making storm surge prediction, and now we are aware that the information is out there, the technology is out there for us to actually develop a storm surge atlas for these islands. So in cooperation with the National Hurricane Center out of South Florida, and also the University Corporation for Atmospheric Research out of Colorado, the Department of Meteorology next week to the 16th and 18th of May will actually be hosting a workshop, and we'll be inviting some of our colleagues from around the region, from islands from Jamaica, Cayman Islands, Turks and Caicos Islands. They'll be joining us.
He shares the focus of that international workshop.
Actually developing a storm surge atlas for the Bahamas. With that, we would be able to have a very good idea of the type of inundation we can expect as a result of a storm surge. So this information can actually be used in terms of advising communities whether or not they need to evacuate and which areas would be the best to evacuating in those areas. So that is something we look to have completed within the next few years.
Still to come on Our News Weekend, exciting news. Our CEO, Franklin Butler, will be giving the commencement speech at the University of the Bahamas' Northern Campus graduation. Good stuff there. And as Russia continues to bombard Ukraine and Ukraine continues to fight back, Our News Weekend speaks to a source of support for Ukraine exclusively. Stay close for that after the break. Congressman Franklin Butler will deliver the spring 2023 commencement address at the University of the Bahamas Northern Campus commencement ceremony on June 1st. Butler is the president and CEO of Cable Bahamas Limited, chairman and director of AML Foods Limited, and chairman and director of BeAlive Limited. UB expects more than 500 students in total to receive their degrees, diplomas, and certificates as a part of the spring 2023 commencement class, which includes students at the UB North Campus in Grand Bahama and the Oaksville Campus in New Providence. The war in Ukraine has been ongoing since February 24, 2022, with some outlets reporting that over 8.8 thousand civilians have already been killed. With attacks and bombings by Russia not letting up, the world has come to the support of Ukraine, including Emery Marsberger, founder of helpingukraine.us, based in the United States. Marsberger, who first visited the country in 1998, returned last year to render assistance, and that's when his organization began and hit the ground running.
We began working to get medical equipment into the hospitals and have delivered over $4 million worth of medical equipment and supplies and wound care to hospitals across the entire Ukrainian country.
He says as Russia began to target power plants, thousands of Ukrainians were impacted by the freezing temperatures.
In December, we began delivering wood-burning stoves to the villages along the war front, and that met with a great response. We gave out thousands and thousands of very thick blankets to anyone who needed blankets, again, all over the war front. And then we began purchasing generators. We realized that hospitals can't run without electricity. And we supplied several major regional hospitals.
Generators were also provided to 3 orphanages, as well as to cover a dozen large community wells, which provides drinking water for several 100,000 people. The group has also provided seeds and thousands of chicks to help families feed themselves.
The villages along the front were totally stripped when the Russians had invaded last spring. And when the Russians were forced out, they took everything that wasn't nailed down, including equipment and all of the livestock.
He says he also wants to supply the country with ambulances.
They took the ambulances and the fire engines. So there's a big need for ambulances, and we've got 4 that have been donated here, and we're now getting those shipped over. We're raising money to help ship those 4 and hopefully soon to be a lot more ambulances from here over to Ukraine, especially along the front where the Russians have actually been targeting ambulances.
He shares what it's like on the ground in Ukraine.
Business is somewhat normal in the 3 quarters of Ukraine that are not under attack this month by the Russians. And they're incredibly loyal to their soldiers and to the people who are there being impacted at the front. So 75% of Ukraine is doing reasonably well. The 25% in the war zone, you see a lot of buildings that have been hit by artillery or missiles. The Russians really demolished a lot of things that they did not have to demolish. I mean, they were shooting at apartment buildings and killing civilians for no reason.
Helpingukraine.us is actively raising funds to continue its ongoing support for locals in Ukraine. Here's how you can help.
Helpingukraine.us. That's www.helpingukraine.us is our center. And we appreciate any support that you can give us. Feel free to reach out to me. My phone number is 770-409-8100. That gets straight to me here in the United States. I'm here and ready to answer questions.
When our Our News Weekend comes back from the break. All Cancers Matter. Lisa Turnquest launches Let's Band 242 in Grants, Bahamas. And a local doctor tells us why all cancers matter. We have the details when Our News Weekend returns. This is Our News Weekend edition. Welcome back. It is a campaign inspired by personal experience and compassion for others. Founder of Let's Band 242, All Cancers Matter, Lisa Turnquest says she was engaged in a conversation during Breast Cancer Awareness Month when she realized that there needs to be more awareness about the multiple variants of cancer. The 7-year lymphoma cancer survivor shares how her experience pushed her to support others.
During the pre-treatment and as well as the chemo, I endured a lot of things physically, but I think I endured a lot more things psychologically and emotionally from the disease that made me want to reach out to persons, once I completed my treatment. And I started work with the Grand Bahama Cancer Society because I do live in Grand Bahama. I am a Grand Bahamian by choice. And I continued the work that they currently have underway, which is, they try to raise funds to support cancer victims with treatment and helping them get back and forth and, various expenses relative to the disease.
She says while battling cancer, she often wondered if her support system felt supported. Turnquest says Let's Band 242 is about being a safe space for those in the fight as well as their support systems.
As you should always do when faced with anything, you go to a higher being, and I was told by God that, listen, you got to do some work. I need you to do some work in this regard. And that's how this whole thing evolved. So I said, I want to mentor people. And so the work that I did over the past 6 years has been by extension of the Cancer Society and working with individuals when they're first diagnosed, when they're going through treatment, when they come out on the other side of treatment, as well as talking to the persons that they left behind if the treatments were not successful. And I realized that it is wonderful work. It is wonderful, heartfelt, sincere, authentic work, and I think I'd like to claim it as my passion.
Here's how you can band together.
The campaign that I'm spearheading is about a simple wristband that says, All Cancers Matter, Let's Band 242. And it's about Bahamians banding with Bahamians against the fight against the cancers that exist in our communities, in our lives, in our families. The band is going to be sold, and all of the proceeds from the band will be given to these two organizations. That's the first level of the campaign. The second level is we've built a website and created social media pages, Instagram and Facebook, for Bahamians to tell their stories, and not just the cancer survivors, not just the cancer victims, but the families of those persons, the sisters, the co-workers.
And to those still in the fight.
For me, I believe that we could do anything through God. I believe that your faith is going to rise to the top of everything that you're doing. If you believe, and it's the simple conversation, the quiet one that you're going to have when you approach, and not just cancer, anything. You're going to have that conversation, and he's going to tell you, this is how it's going to play out. Okay, you're going to go through this. On the other side, I just got to try to be an inspiration and tell those, even in the fight, be an inspiration, be a voice of faith.
Well, the month of May is celebrated as Cancers Month, where awareness is brought to the various types of cancers. Here in New Providence, a local doctor will be conducting a pap smear drive, which he hopes will encourage more women to get them done often. Italia Hall reports.
Gynecologist and owner of Femina Bahamas, Dr. Nina Graham, is encouraging women to get their pap smears done annually. She says cervical cancer is a preventable disease.
Hence the reason why I do my drive during Cervical Health and Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. And as you so rightly mentioned, and I don't know if the public is aware, it's the only preventable cancer, all right, and in women. If you would just do your pap smear. And a lot of times women tend to overlook, or they don't want to do it, it hurts, or for whatever reason they don't want to do it. And so they look for all these reasons, not knowing, and then when you finally do it, hey, there's something abnormal.
And she says it's important to know that an abnormal pap smear does not mean that you have cancer.
Because I have patients who come and never come back. But you say I have cancer. No, I did not say you had cancer. You have precancerous lesions which can be treated before it gets to cancer. So that's why it's so important to do your pap smears, pick up the abnormality, and get it treated before it becomes cancer.
And in doing that, she believes cervical cancer would be eradicated in the country.
Or worldwide. And that is the aim, just to do your pap smears. So I try to encourage anywhere where I could plug in a little special to do, because I work along with Neoplastic Lab, thank you Neoplastics, and we try to get, I do my services for free, and we try to get the price down for the lab as much as possible, just so women can do their pap smears.
Reporting for Our News Weekend, I'm Italia Hall.
Thanks, Italia. Just after the break, we are going to see what's in store for us weather-wise. And a nip here and a tuck there. Is it vanity or insanity? The doctor has the answer. That's on the way when our News Weekend edition returns. Welcome back. Rain is the sky descending to the earth. Without rain, there would be no life. Rain is powerful. Let's see if rain is in the forecast over the next few days. The Phi Upsilon chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated in Grants, Bahamas will be celebrating an anniversary on the 23rd of this month. In light of the anniversary, a free webinar will be held. The topic, mental health. President of the organization, Yvonne Pearson, says obtaining good mental health is important.
It's time that we bring it out in the open and allow people to know that it's nothing wrong. We can all from time to time experience some mental health issues, whatever it may be, and whatever may bring it on. So it's important that we understand it and that we try and seek help if it's for ourselves or for someone that we know.
And she says sometimes children also experience anxiety and depression.
We laugh at them and say, oh, how can a child be depressed? But it happens. You know, how, and as though depression isn't something that, it's a sickness, but it is. And so we are hoping that after this, people will be exposed to this whole mental health issue, and will seek attention, will seek assistance when they need it.
We often hear that beauty is only skin deep, but often our perception of our physical appearance can have an impact on our mental health. Our Marlena Leonard dives into the issue with local cosmetic surgeon Dr. Jonathan Higgins in this report.
Cosmetic surgery is that vulnerable people may see procedures as a quick fix for mental struggles or become addicted to procedures. Cosmetic and vascular surgeon Dr. Jonathan Higgins explains the preventative measures doctors take.
We have to, in our training, learn about how to analyze patients that may have some mental instability or body dysmorphic disorder. And those are the patients that we screen out. We do not operate on those. We advise that they have some psychological, psychiatric evaluation prior to operating on them.
But what is body dysmorphia? Higgins breaks down the signs and the symptoms of the struggle.
Basically, you feel, despite you looking fantastic, looking great, no problems, no major abnormalities in your appearance, you always feel as if you're less than. You always feel as if you don't add up and you're not beautiful. And you're doing the operation so that you can gain acceptance by others. We try to avoid doing that because the wife that is trying to do an operation to please her husband to avoid divorce, that's a bad situation to be in. That's a bigger problem. We don't do those operations.
The surgeon gives an example of an ideal patient he loves to work with.
And there's a particular type of patient that I like. For example, 35-year-old female, she's happily married, she's had 2 or 3 kids, and her husband loves her. She's exercising, she's eating right, she's doing the good things. But hey, we live in Earth. There's this thing called gravity. You're exercising, you're eating right. We do the procedure, transformation, like from a caterpillar in the cocoon to a lovely butterfly. Beautiful, and it reignites the marriage.
Dr. Higgins adds that although he's open to consultations, he doesn't typically do cosmetic operations on people under the age of 25.
Because there's so much that's going on within them that they may make a decision today that affects them later on. Now, I recognize that that's taking away a significant portion of my patient population, but for me, it's not about the money. For me, it's about the ability to impact lives.
Reporting for Our News Weekend, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Thanks so much, Marlena, and thank you for joining us for our News Weekend edition. On behalf of our producer and the entire technical team, I'm Megan Shepherd. Have a safe and wonderful evening.